Well, first of all, thank you for taking some time with me this morning. I know it's probably
The first one is pretty difficult in general. Yeah. I have to wake up, and for my English, it's better after 4 or 5.
I understand. So we're talking about Micmacs, and I'm really interested in what draws you to movies about serious topics that are playful. Like, what draws you to those kind of stories?
You mean about the weapons deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. The history is, I was working 2 years on Life of Pi. It was a project for 20th Century Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent 2 years because I wrote the script, I made the storyboard. So I was starving to shoot. And I opened my box of notes and I had different ideas. And I mixed 3 feelings. The first one was the story of revenge, because I am a big fan about Once Upon a Time in the West. And the other one was to use a band of original people, I don't want to say silly people, but a little bit like the Seven Dwarfs in Snow White. Mm-hmm. And the third idea was to make something about the weapons deal, because when we made the editing of the City of Lost Children 15 years ago, we were working just beside the Marcel Dassault industry, and they make the French airplanes. Mm-hmm. And we saw the guy with ties, very polite and very nice, and we thought, during the day they invade things to hurt and to kill. I thought it was interesting to show that, to speak about it. Of course, it's a comedy, it's a slapstick, it's a cartoon, but we made real research for that. Mm-hmm. We made not investigation, we made some interviews in Belgium, in a manufacturer of weapons. Mm-hmm. They built some arrows to go through the tank, mm-hmm. and they are very nice. They have the passion for technology, you can believe it. Mm-hmm. And they are very nice guys, very open mind, and but they completely forget the destiny of the technology. It's crazy. It's mm-hmm. insane.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting scenes in the movie is the scene where the one weapons manufacturer is speaking to his company, and it's that they almost seem like they feel like they're doing something great.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're making these dangerous things.
When we visited the manufactory, it was exactly a chocolate manufactory. They were so proud about the technology. Yeah, wow. It's very cynical, but everything you can hear on the film, it's true. When they mm-hmm. say we work for the Minister of Defense, not for the Minister of Attack, it's true. No? Mm-hmm. It's more expensive to hurt people than to kill people. It's a new philosophy about mm-hmm. weapons.
Mm-hmm. Now, in this movie, you have some pretty cool special effects. You have a very awesome explosion. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest challenge in filming this?
For this film, I think it was to balance the spirit, the mood between the serious issue with the weapon sellers and the comedy. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want to make too much caricature for the 2 weapon sellers, mm-hmm. and the band of stupid guys are very cartoon. So I had to find the right balance, mm-hmm. and I made some rehearsal for that, of course. Mm-hmm. And when you rehearse, of course, you don't have everybody at the same time. I am not Francis Coppola, So I rehearse one by one, mm-hmm. and it's like an orchestra. You imagine you rehearse with the string, mm-hmm. and you rehearse with the mm-hmm. and at the end you have everybody together, and it works. You have the whole symphony.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been making films for a long time.
Because Life of Pi.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say that how would you say that your storytelling style has developed or evolved over your period of making movies?
I don't understand your question.
What's the difference between you today and when you first started out as a filmmaker?
Maybe I think during a while you make movies, your movies, and after a while you make cinema, and it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I think Martin Scorsese, for example, he made Raging Bull, or he made Taxi Driver, And now he makes Aviator, he makes, it's different because you have maybe 2 or 3 important movies in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now I make cinema, and it's always a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe one day I will find a new, very important film for me, I don't know. But for this film, it was just a pleasure to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's a philosophy I always had the pleasure to make.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, I started at 8 to make. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the best advice I can tell to young people. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Take your camera and do it.
Well, it certainly looks like a film that you can tell that everyone enjoyed making it, and I think Danny Boone feels so at home in this character. Did you have him in mind when you were writing it, or did
No,
he come along later?
maybe you know, but I wrote the script for another guy. Sorry, maybe
You're fine.
Because it was a young French guy. Hello. A young French guy, and very thin with a handicap.
Mm-hmm.
He's a star in France, but he for personal reason, he passed on just maybe 2 months before the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I had the same problem with Emily Watson for Amélie.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the script for Emily Watson's English actress. And so it was an opportunity to work with Danny Wood because I love this guy since 15 years because he made some standing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I follow him since a long time. And he's completely the opposite physically of the other guy, but on the brain, on the mind, they are very similar. Imagination, they come from the suburb in France, and so I didn't try to copy the other guy. I give him some big clothes, big trouser, and the first guy would have been like a shrimp, and this guy is like a bear. It's the opposite, but same spirit.
Oh, it seems to have worked out.
Yeah.
Now,
Did you know Danny Wood before? No.
This is the first time I've ever seen him, to be honest with you, and
I
he's
understand.
incredible.
And Will Smith is going to make a remake about Welcome Sticks. That's the title in English. You don't know this film. It's crazy because in France, that's the most huge success in France. Almost than Titanic. It's 21 million admission. Amélie was a huge success. It was 8 million and half. He had 21 million. I want to kill him.
It's interesting that you bring up Will Smith remaking, because I was curious. You've made so many successful French films that have. Amélie was very successful over here, and I have a feeling Micmacs will speak to an American audience. Definitely, I think so. It spoke to me, and I'm very.
In Toronto, it was a big success too. Great.
But I'm curious as to what you would say to a studio if they came to you and they said, "We want to make an American version of Amélie," or "We want to make an American."
They did. For Série, they did for Delicatessen, a family film. They tried, but when you have a success, of course it's a French success. It was 33 million. It's not a big success, but for a French film, it's huge. At this time, they don't want to make a remake because the film is known. In terms of admission, it's 5 million people in USA. It's not just peanuts, so it's too much for a remake. You know what I mean? They could make a remake if you don't have any success in French. And I prefer to have a success with my own film.
Right, definitely.
And I saw so many rip-off. For example, the American series Pushing Daisies between Tim Burton and Amélie. Oh my God! And the guy called. He says, "Oh, it's an homage. It's an homage." Well, an homage.
Have you seen also? Are you at all mad about the Travelocity commercials? Have you seen the ones with the gnome?
No,
from Amélie.
Someone spoke about it. I saw the homage up in the air. They speak about that. Yeah, so many times.
Now, you've worked both independently in France and in the Hollywood system. What's your favorite thing about making movies in France?
Just because I have the complete freedom, and I want to say something because some people would want I say Hollywood was a nightmare, it was a suffering. No, it's not the case. I repeat all the time, but I often read, it was a nightmare for Jean-Pierre Jeunet. No, even the director of Up in the Air, he would like, but no, it wasn't a nightmare. It was tough because you have a lot of people to convince. You have to struggle and to fight every day. You know, it wasn't easy. It's heavy. You have a lot of people on the stage every day. But at the end, I'm very proud about the film. Of course, it's not my own film, but it's okay. It was another role of the game. It was a great experience. But in France, it's completely different because I have the complete freedom. By the law, I have the final cut. You know, nothing to explain to nobody. I am the boss, and it's such a pleasure to work like this. But I am very professional. I learned a lot doing Alien Resurrection. For example, in France, I make some test screening. But the big difference, if, for example, someone says, we don't like the voiceover, if I like it, I don't care. In USA, maybe you have to cut the voiceover, you know. But if some people say we don't understand that scene, there is a problem, and I work to fix it.
Cool. Well, we're getting the sign to kind of wrap it up here. So, one thing that I always ask filmmakers is, you've probably done a fair amount of interviews about this movie. Is there anything that you haven't had a chance to say about this movie yet? Anything you haven't been asked that you'd like people to know about it?
It's important for me because I forgot that after a while. When I was writing the script, I thought about kids, teenager and kids. For me, it was like a Pixar movie. I am a big fan about Pixar movies. I had the great privilege to make a master class at Pixar. And I thought about the same spirit. And I don't know how it will be received here, but in France, they thought it was a hearty movie, not for a kid movie, and I was a little bit disappointed about that. It's for everybody, just for the pleasure. It's a fun movie. I wanted to do that. That's my message.
So where do you go from here? Where do you go? What would you like to do next?
For the next, I would like to know. Now I would like to make an adaptation. I don't feel like to write another own story. Because when I make a film, I put so many details inside. I am dry for 5 years now, you know, and I need to get my box full of new ideas. And during this time, I could make an adaptation. Like after Amélie, I made a very long engagement. It was from a novel, and I'm reading now. I read 1 book per day, if it's not a big book. And I'm a fast reader, so I read a lot of books, different directions. I would have wanted to make a beautiful book. It was, you won't know it. But it's rare. For example, I love so much the book, the last Peter Jackson movie, The Lovely Bones. I love this book, but of course, he did it's pretty rare to find a book, because I need to fall in love with the subject. You know? It's just not, okay, one more film. I spent 3 years to make a film, and I speak about the film during 1 year. So I need to be really in love with the subject.
All right. Well, Jean-Pierre Jeunet,
okay.
Thank you very much for spending some time with me this morning.
Okay.